Abuse and manipulation gets covered in this video. Viewer discretion is advised. No D&D is better than bad D&D is a phrase used by members of the Dungeons & Dragons community to describe how not playing the game at all is always preferred over having to deal with players at the table being horrible people. And although we've had creators and even members of the design team be outed in the past for disturbing or defending abusive acts in this hobby, none have been as infamous as Arcadum. Jeremy Arcadum Black was a dungeon master and Twitch streamer famous for the fantasy role-playing games he would run and immersive talent for storytelling. With a growing community of over 269,000 followers, Arcadum streams were one of the few pipelines that new players would have getting into D&D. His channel's growth was really unheard of in the tabletop space, rivaling even that of Blaine Simple and reaching a peak Twitch subscriber base of more than 11,000. However, his career took a dramatic turn in 2021 when a slew of women with connections to him all broke their silence to reveal the emotionally manipulative, abusive man he actually was. This is the story of Arcadum, what led to his downfall, and what he's up to now. Hope you'll enjoy. But first, do you want to play D&D with a dungeon master you can actually count on? How about finally learning how to play D&D with a group that actually wants to play each week? Start Playing is an online platform built to help players find online games and professional dungeon masters with over 50,000 players already using it. Users from all over the world can make a free account and sign up to join any of the hundreds of games looking for players at any time. It's not just D&D either, as the site has dungeon masters who cater a variety of other games too, like Pathfinder, Vampire the Masquerade, and so much more. Each DM has a clearly visible rating that shows reviews from their players, the games they run, and the tags they stand by, making it easier and safer than ever to feel out a host before applying to play. Or heck, become a game master yourself and make a bit of hobby money on the side, charging a modest fee to pay for the game materials and to keep your players accountable. Start Playing is a quick and seamless way to jump into the world of tabletop RPGs, and if you're after an unforgettable experience and a group you can trust, then look no further. Thanks to Start Playing for sponsoring, and let's get right into the video. Before the D&D campaign that would put many of the biggest virtual YouTubers on edge, Arcadum was a well-respected dungeon master who was very in tune with his communities. His first day on Twitch in 2016 began with a viewer base of over 400 people, but connections played a big part in his fame and would be where most of Arcadum's relevance would always come from. He knew a handful of hugely popular people that he'd continue to host games for. Sure4, Moon, Pokelols, Soda Poppin', and Vigor were to name a few. Arcadum's previous campaigns, Guyland's Gate and Deals in the Dark, were huge in the lore of his D&D setting, the living world of Verum. It got so big, actually, that a fandom site was organized by viewers to document events and history being revealed in the game. With a reputation for playing with some of the largest content creators and the skill to keep people entertained, Arcadum was in a lucky spot. People trusted him to run a game that fans and players would have fun with, and many people considered him the dungeon master of Twitch because he was one of the largest channels that would invite other creators over to play. July of 2020 would jumpstart the fastest growth on his channel, largely in part to a completely new group of players he got together for a new campaign. Project Melody, Iron Mouse, Silverveils, Entreya, Momo, and BunnyGif were all virtual YouTubers, or VTubers for short, who accepted invitations to play. For anyone clueless, VTubers use rigged avatars to represent themselves online. The most popular all have anime-style designs and followings ranging in the hundreds of thousands. Each of them helped to promote the game, with everyone involved using their social media to direct fans to Arcadum's Twitch live streams. Through this influx of viewership, he'd regularly gain over 10,000 new followers every month for as long as the campaign with these VTubers would continue. But why did he choose VTubers specifically? Well, maybe he was foreshadowing just wanting the chance to roleplay with a bunch of attractive anime girls. But realistically, many of the VTubers that joined already knew each other. And since D&D is a long collaborative game where you have to play with other people, it seemed like a great way to tick those boxes and have some fun. Death and Debts would be the D&D adventure Arcadum would host for the girls. Viewers were hyped to see the story play out, and on the surface, everything seemed fine. But that was mainly because the VTubers knew how to stay professional. As they continued playing D&D with Arcadum, they just assumed D&D was meant to be a stressful game. A few of them considered quitting multiple times throughout the campaign because of the stress Arcadum was putting on them to play better, which led one player, Neanners, to start drinking before games just to ease the stress he was putting on her.
I was like needing to get drunk before each session. We were all very stressed out. Like before a session, we'd all get in a call together and be like, like a support group for each other.
Momo, one of the other players, knew the stress everyone else was going through and compared it with the crooked way Arcadum would privately talk about her friends and colleagues. It didn't take long to piece things together and begin privately reaching out to other girls in Arcadum's reach to see if they also had bad experiences to share. Turns out there was a lot, like a lot, and it gave them all insight into how abusive and manipulative of a person Arcadum really was. For starters, Momo would leak their DMs, saying he would suggest things to me, analytical, hyper-complicated scenarios, where he would digest the things my friends did on social media, their streams, everything. He would prey on my doubt and instill in me that it was my idea to talk about it. Fulcona, a VTuber disconnected from the campaign, revealed that he abused and SA'd them. I believe I was forced and groomed into silence about my experience up until this point. I was SA'd by Arcadum in my own home. He took advantage of me on the night of the 25th and used my emotional vulnerability to attempt and perform sexual acts with me. God, I listen to influencer downfall videos on YouTube constantly and even I'm struggling to read this quote. Then one of Arcadum's server admins came out saying that the dude gave them nightmares and PTSD from his fits of yelling rage. A different VTuber named Uzu mentioned that he pressured her and a different friend into giving him sexual favors in VR chat while someone else was in the same world lobby. That kind of acts as icing on the cake to show just how capable Arcadum was at taking control of the people around him. A lot of this info was made public on Twitter at the same time, being a coordinated effort to cover every base and ensure Arcadum's silver tongue couldn't talk his way out of this one. All of these sexual encounters were made even worse with the knowledge that Arcadum had a wife. Once the allegations came out, he attempted to frantically delete any evidence he could in an attempt to save the scraps of his marriage. The goal was to make it seem like his encounters with these girls were all consensual. But even though I only brought up a few stories, there were more than 21 Twitlonger statements by the end of this that could make for its own novel of tales being levied against him. Arcadum was able to keep this going for so long because he was really good at manipulating people. But the flag of consent he'd try to wave didn't look so clean when he was even manipulating his own wife's access to information. The way he talked was cold and calculating, always seeing people as nothing more than statistics or girls to guilt trip and push into satisfying him. A recorded call was later leaked where Arcadum talked about his friends like percentage numbers, saying that only a fraction of them would continue being his friend after games he would host.
It is actually, I believe it is 17.8% of the people that I run D&D for will continue to be my friends once the game is done. I have that number for you. I have made that calculation. I have made that calculation 4 separate occasions. The evidence is empirical. So, sorry. I believe it is 48% of you won't talk to me ever again.
The goal was to make these supervillain monologues during sympathy-grabbing, hour-long Discord calls in an attempt to vilify anyone who tried to cut him out of their lives. But everything was on the table now. Allegations were spread all across Twitter, and Arcadum made one final post trying to rectify things before going dormant on the platform for a little less than 2 years. In his response, he ignored the allegations of manipulation, denied everything non-consensual, and only regretted that his wife had to learn any of this. Once Arcadum's talent agency, Novo, caught wind of the situation, they tried to be civil about the whole thing. Arcadum wasn't making it easy though, and kept the deceit going even when the agency planned to launch an investigation to learn the truth and potentially clear his name. He was not remotely truthful with our agency and reported a vastly different situation than these women collaborated. On the morning of August the 30th, based on the knowledge he had given us prior to the woman coming out, we offered to fund a third-party investigation to discern the truth of his initial claim. Needless to say now, that investigation is no longer required. The Novo talent agency terminated their contract immediately with Arcadum, saying it cost them 20 grand to cancel plans for merchandise and business deals in circulation. So now that we have context for the kind of guy Arcadum is, what's he been up to nowadays, almost 2 years later? Does he still stream D&D games? Well, you'd be surprised to know that he basically never stopped. After being shot down by every corner of the internet, Arcadum took a 2-month hiatus and then jumped right back into live streaming D&D games as if the only issue in his life was his wife's opinion. The fandom page that hosted his D&D campaign's lore revolted and refused to update the wiki anymore, forcing him to host his own website and plant new staff members that he'd have full control over. He wouldn't address the drama again for nearly 2 years, banning anyone who'd bring it up during live streams or in his Discord community. When he finally did choose to come back to Twitter, he still denied everything. All he had to say was that the allegations were bogus and that his therapist said he should keep streaming because it'd help him feel better, cementing the fact that the only person that deserves to recover from this whole situation is Arcadum. Thankfully, we can all sleep well at night knowing that during this whole mess, for more than 2 years straight, his Twitch channel consistently lost followers. He continues to host games with players and old friends who either don't know what went down in the past or are choosing to ignore it. Although it's disappointing to say that he can pay rent with the handful of Twitch subs still dripping into the channel every month, his all-time high was more than 11,000, so I'd call that a win. Where I think modern Arcadum shines though is on Twitter, where he'll post either one of 3 things: a bland notification to remind people that he's hosting D&D today, a passive-aggressive message saying how happy he is to be in the situation he's in now, literally coping to the max, or making up analytics about how supportive his fanbase has been lately while getting roasted in the Twitter comments every time. Like, he praised hitting 1,000 Twitch subs on this post when during January he barely scratched 900. Still solid numbers for someone who fell off this hard, but it's still a lie. There was also this other post where he was trying to give sympathy to JoeCat, an animator who was being wrongly accused at the time for disrespecting women. The difference here is that tons of girls came out in defense of JoeCat by posting a slew of positive experiences they've had with him. Literally the polar opposite of Arcadum's situation. It's even funnier because JoeCat had his own gripes with Arcadum in a similar vein to how Neanners and the other VTubers did. Mostly in that when JoeCat was a part of his game, Arcadum didn't respect anyone's feelings and never tried to make the game fun for anyone.
One example, when we were storming the, bandit camp, all of us wanted to do something while this horse was riding towards us, and we were all deciding and planning what each of us were going to do, but he kept moving the token closer as we were discussing, and we were like, oh, okay, I guess we just gotta speed up. So only Monty got a chance to do what she wanted to do before things just went off the rails, and then we were like, okay, change of plans. I can understand he wants us to feel as urgent as the characters, but I was like, that's not very fun, and so we brought this up with him. Could you maybe set up, a system to give us each, a limited amount of time, maybe 1 minute or 30 seconds? And what he said to me was like, oh yeah, I did that. And I was like, did you though?
Then one of my favorite tweets in the Arcadum story so far, being posted late into June of this year, he, for some reason, chose to chime into the Dr. Disrespect allegations. Disrespect was a content creator recently outed as having inappropriate conversations with minors, hiding evidence and backpedaling from the truth. What did Arcadum have to say about this situation that was so clearly cold cut? This situation really reminds me just how easily rumors and accusations with no evidence can ruin lives. Maybe if it quacks like a duck, and it's been quacking the same way since 2021, it's probably still a duck. I've been Blaine, this video was anything but simple, and I'll catch you all in the next one.